Welcome back, travelers, to Midnight Hunt, Legendary Lore.
What do you mean welcome? We're just starting.
Yeah! I mean, at this point...
Legendary Lore.
At this point, they're probably Crimson Valve previews already, so that's great. We're hoping that we got this out a little bit sooner than that, but, you know, time is time. That's how it rolls. And so we're going to go ahead and just talk about every single legend in the Midnight Hunt set.
Okay.
Starting with Jadar. Jadar was actually a flavor text character from a few of the different cards that had involved zombies. His whole deal is that he was a surgeon in a small township, and eventually he tried to use necromancy to cure a plague. And when the last villager died, he then basically succumbed to his own madness, and he raised the entire town, and he said all the ghouls were basically healthy now. And so now he is an extremely infamous ghoul caller who fishes bodies out of a marsh called the Morkret, and then he reanimates the corpses and sends them on their way with a simple task. Usually,
you can tell with this flavor text here. I'm hoping Ricky's showing his regular card here. Rise, my pretty thing. Why rot in the river when you can serve at my bidding?
Yeah, exactly.
And now, Ricky, let's show them that showcase art because that shows how mad he's gone. That's such cool art.
It is, and I love his tongue. I think his tongue. It's weird.
I don't even want to fathom what that is. That's how. I mean, it's good. It's accurate to what you're saying, but yeah.
Yeah.
And also, if it looks like I'm on my phone, I'm following along with Ricky.
From that one, we now go to Liesa. Liesa, of course, is the one referred to as the Glorious Resurrector, as you can tell. Basically, we're going to get to learn a lot more about her in a future story. So all I'm going to mention is that after the Travails ended, Travails is what they refer to as the things that happened with Emrakul and all that, the Liliana Vest left with a ton of zombies still in Thraben. And Liesa basically just capitalized on it and took over the place, killing off whoever was still there, and she just stays in one of the priest's most lavish quarters in the Cathedral of Avacyn. And she basically does whatever she wants.
I love her artwork of her here living it up.
Oh yeah, it's great. In both variants, she looks like she's having the time of her life.
Yep.
Jaren, we mentioned Jaren in the Eldritch Moon, I want to say. No, that was in Shadows of Innistrad. Jaren was the corrupted bishop that was leader of the Skursdag, and he was a problem for the Lunar Council. And,
we hadn't named him, or we hadn't had a name for him yet, had we?
We had a name, but we didn't really have anything else for him, and he was kind of just there.
Because what he turns into Ormondal, but what used to turn into Ormondal was the chamber they used to summon him. Yes,
Ormondal basically was his owner, because he used to work for Griselbrand. He had dedicated his entire life to restoring Griselbrand. And when Griselbrand was killed by Liliana, he was super sad, and then Ormondal's like, hey, I'm a demon too. And so
Jaren's not loyal to demons, he's just loyal to being a corrupt bishop.
Yeah, pretty much. And so he steps down from his position and gives the reins to the demon. But then,
snap.
Apparently, Ormondal succumbed to the Eldrazi's corruption, and Jaren gets killed along the rest of the council during the Battle of Thraben.
Oh, so this Jaren card is just a backtrack, just like, hey, we forgot to give Jaren a card.
Pretty much. So he was given a slot alongside Ormondal, who similarly got killed off screen.
Okay.
Yeah, and it just talks about how he was underground the whole time. Then we have Liesa, who I'm not going to go into a lot of details on her because we might get a little thing about her later on.
My baby.
Suffice to say, she was killed earlier in this back with Avacyn. We talked about that, how she killed.
We have mentioned her, yes.
Liesa, yeah.
And you can check out our Legendary Lore Commander Legends, where we also bring her up.
That is true. Rem Carolus. We've talked about this glorious fellow.
He's had parts in this series.
Yeah.
Let's hear about him.
Basically, he does not wish for a glorious end in battle. He really enjoys living. And the reason is because as long as he lives, he gets to have more fights. But he is looking for a challenge. And so one thing that happened during the whole battle with Emrakul is where there was the part where Sigarda and Thalia worked together to kill Brizella. After all that happened, Rem was super upset that he couldn't go up into the sky and fight Emrakul himself.
So his flying mount here is new.
Yes, so he tamed the largest wild griff he could find.
Griff's got a beak on it.
Yeah. And apparently,
I love him.
and apparently, he has been called to face a new challenge to slay an immortal creature. We might find out a bit about that. Then we have Ludovic the Necro Genius. Ludovic is what you would call a necro alchemist, which is basically just like a stitcher kind of deal. And he was one of the most influential merchants on Innistrad. He eventually became basically insane, and he started working on his masterpiece. He also has an apprentice in Geralt, and he wants to basically create something new, his final creation. And it's unknown if he's going to survive to be able to actually see it, and we don't really have much else on him. We might get something in the next set that will expand on that once Geralt is a main character. Then we got Tovalor. Nice. We mentioned Tovalor in the werewolf episode.
Oh yes, Tovalor. Yes.
He was the leader, used to be the leader of the Mondrian Howl Pack, which was disbanded once the whole thing with Avacyn causing the curse mute and all that. But then, after the travails, Tovalor is once again a leader. And he is he's all about, werewolf pride and making Innistrad great again. And so basically he just wants to stand for the freedom to embrace the savage beast within. And a bunch of werewolves are basically following him because of it. And he really wants to stop the Dawnheart Coven, which we'll get to very soon. Sigarda, this champion of light. She's epic and cool and wears green. And basically, she was the only angel not to be corrupted by the whole deal with Emrakul, the only archangel. And now that 2 years have passed since Travails, she has basically created a new sect within the Abyssinian church. And they have started calling themselves Ciguardian priests. And they have basically returned to like a small town religion kind of thing, where there's less of the grandeur. And the basically, there are some people that don't trust the angels, but the Lunar Council still leads the church overall. And the Ciguardians are the ones that are focused on the local elders, local communities, and little holidays and stuff like that.
This looks cool.
Those are all the old ones. Now we're going to go into the new ones, since it's pretty quick. So that's why we're doing all of them in one go.
Okay.
Adeline is the Resplendent Cathar, and she's basically a tactician. We haven't really heard about her. It turns out that she was selected to lead the Force of Cathars during the Travail. So that was when she really got her thing. So we already knew about Audric and Thalia, but this Adeline, she's new. And she had to leave her family behind in order to go try and take on the whole deal. And then a family of vampires took advantage of the chaos and kidnapped her younger brother. As soon as Emrakul was sealed away, she began a personal crusade against vampires, and she hopes that she can eventually find news of her brother to find and basically just kill as many vampires as she can along the way. This little tidbit does make me suspicious that maybe her brother will have some involvement in the new set, either as a vampire himself or as the groom, possibly. For some ritual. Lear, the disciple of the drowned, weird guy. Beneath the waves, lost gods stir in their slumber. That's his flavor text. He is basically just the high priest of a cult that worships an ancient god of sea and storms. It was founded by Runo Stromkirk, the vampire, and it has never had a more, I guess you could say, vocal or fervent priest than Lear. And he basically just talks about how even that, you have the entirety of the surface covered in horrors, and that just means that humanity was not meant to be on it. And so he says that when his god returns, the oceans are going to retake the surface, and the worthy will be escorted to a paradise beneath the waves.
He's put on a shirt.
Yeah.
Does he think he's Tyvar?
Tyvar. And then we have Gorex, the Tombshell, which is a giant zombie turtle. Jadar actually, he had a problem. Because he would get so many corpses out of the Morkrat Marsh, and he found that his wheelbarrow was insufficient. But he figured there's no problem the necromancy can't solve, and so he scoured the marsh until he found the massive turtle corpse. And using a little bit of magic, he reanimated it into Gorex, both cart and horse. It serves as his primary means of transport. So he just, he basically just uses it. He lives on it and stuff like that.
Okay.
Sereth, she'll be important in one of the stories. She believes that Sereth, she is the Viper's Fang. She's basically another witch.
Oh, okay.
But she is not a part of the Dawnheart Coven, like the other ones. She found that Katilda was basically her, Katilda and her were at odds at all times. And Sareth, she believed the Grin Danu, which is like the spirit the other witches pray to, would not be enough to restore Innistrad. And so she sought out additional gods. Maybe we'll find out about what those things look like. Then we got Kirby's. He's the star of the show. Kirby's. He's the one that you know. He's coming right back at ya. He's the Harvest Celebrant, Tree Folk. He is basically a bunch of Geist-possessed greenery.
Awesome.
Yeah. So they called a Forgotten Spirit for the one of the very first Harventide sovereigns and fused it with an ancient tree. And Kirby is just torn between his mortal desire to help with the Harvestide and the Tree Folk instinct to seek out and absorb life force. Kind of a tough spot. Then you have Florian Vuldren. He is a vampire. He was tired of attacking humans. And so he figured it'd be a lot easier if the humans just gave it away. And so he mastered charm magic and put his theory to chest by enchanting a small township. This still recovered from the travails. He asked them for a weekly offering of blood. Not enough to kill them, but more than enough to feed Florian and his companions. And so he is eager to share this breakthrough with Olivia. So this
is one I actually like the regular art for fitting the character more than the showcase art.
I can see that. That makes sense. Katilda, a huge character, one who I have grown to enjoy. The current leader of the Dawnheart Coven is Katilda, and she is extremely strong-willed. She's a healer, a teacher in the Kasig town of Avabrook, and, well, when the town was destroyed, the ruins of which are now called Hollowhenge, she went into the forest. And there she met hermits and witches who practice hedge magic. Hedge magic is, of course, something that Sigarda mentioned they would have to return to at the end of Eldritch Moon. She had talked about how that was they would need more natural magics.
So it is hinted at.
Yes, it's hinted at. It's not something that just came out of nowhere.
Okay.
It's something that was a possibility already. Vadrick has a card already. His character showed up on a previous it was a blue commander card that I cannot quite remember the name of, but he uses the exact same hairdo and has the exact same clothes and is an astrology-based wizard.
He doesn't have hair.
Look at that beard, Joe. Tell me that glorious beard isn't a hairdo.
Ricky, that glorious beard isn't a hairdo.
You're a liar and a charlatan. So, moving on. We'll get the story about him later on. Same thing with Old Stick Fingers, but let's just read this poem. It's literally just a poem. Old Stick Fingers, terror bringer, knows when children disobey. If you're slacking, he's attacking. Did you do your chores today? Old Stick Fingers' presence lingers inside every hollow tree. Don't sneak out or you'll shout and no one will remember thee. An interesting fact about Stick Fingers that he's right behind you, Joe.
That's bacon.
What's fun is that actually means a whole lot more than you would think. Anyway, Slogurk. Slogurk has absolutely no story behind him besides the fact that it is a giant slime. And it comes up and basically just pulls ships beneath into the depths.
Do you need much more story than that?
I mean, I would like an ooze with a story, but yeah, I get what you mean. Dennick, we'll get a little bit more on him when we get to the actual stories. But
Dennick.
Yeah, he was a member of the Betzold household, but he was the illegitimate son of Warren Betzold, who was a high-ranking family group in Gavany. And so basically, he always wanted to be like part of the family. He was obsessed with becoming a Cathar and proving that he could actually be who his dad wanted him to be. And then his dad gave him a shield for his birthday, and he was super excited. And the next day, the travails began, and every trace of the Betzold name was wiped out by Eldrazi.
Okay, this is another one I like the regular art more than the showcase one, though. Like,
Which one?
He's a happy boy with his shield.
Oh, yeah, he is. He definitely is. And then he's not. He's very much not. He's like super not. So then we have Olog. Olog has basically no story besides the fact that it's Ludovic's great creation, and the artwork suspiciously looks exactly like Ludovic, though it's said that it's not. It's weird. It's a miscommunication. It looks just like him. I don't understand it. Then we have Wilhelm.
Oh, now we're getting into the good ones.
Wilhelm is a terrible card, and his army is useless, and that's pretty much it. We'll get into a bit more on his story later.
Check out our commander game if you want to find out why Ricky's so upset about Wilhelm and why I'm laughing. Please
Eloise,
check it out. It's amazing.
Eloise is really cool. She's a detective. You don't get a lot of that, but in Investigate, there's a lot of detectives in that. She was hired specifically to investigate a roving Geist attacking people in a local township. User experience left her able to connect the dots better than most folks, but in this case, the dots didn't line up. She quickly discovered the Geist had her own information about the employer, and she knows that to solve this case, she'll have to go down the rabbit hole filled with cults, ghosts, and forgotten secrets. It's basically it's setting up a fantastic story and goes nowhere. Maybe in the next
I hope she gets something eventually.
Then we have Lenore, the incredibly overpowered and glorious witch. Sorry, she's not a witch. She's the Autumn Sovereign. I would like to gift you the Lenore that destroyed you so heavily. Can't see it very well because my blurry face cam, but this is that exact Lenore. Yeah, if you guys want to see that, you'll see it in action in the episode. That should already be out by this point. Thank you, Joe. I genuinely appreciate that because that thing mutilated me.
She deserves to be in your Legends.
Yeah, she's going in the Legendary deck for sure.
Plus, she's a good draw engine.
That too. So, basically, Lenore, you'll get to know a little bit more about her about midway through the stories of Midnight Hunt. She's basically she's been chosen by the witches to represent the normal people, basically.
Oh, so she is a big thing.
Yes.
Even story-wise, she was more impactful than Wilhelm.
Then we have Kyler, the Ciguardian Emissary. He couldn't decide if his name was Kyle or Tyler, but basically, it says even when the angels succumb to madness, Ciguardian stood strong. She has hope. When Emissary descended during the travail, Ciguardian was the only archangel that was able to survive it. And because of that, this guy was one of the first to bring word of Ciguardian to the greater populace. He knew she would protect them, and it is known it's mainly thanks to him that Ciguardian's blessing can protect the people of Innistrad.
Okay.
Now, Joe, Lind, I have not seen her deck. Was that a deck I could have chosen?
No. So what this set did was, you know how sometimes you get the commander cards in the collector boosters?
Yes.
Some of them you could only get in collector boosters. Like they were only commander cards, but you could only get them in the boosters. There was no deck for them.
That is a terrible choice.
Yes, it is. I don't support the decision at all. I would have loved for Lind to have her own deck, but tell us about her.
Yes, so born hundreds of years ago, Lind was a powerful witch with a knack for curses, right? And in a moment of youthful overconfidence, she tried to curse a traveling mage who had accidentally bumped into her on a crowded street. What she didn't know was that the mage was actually a planeswalker, and he deflected the curse, and it instead sent over a curse of their own. So as time went on, she discovered that she no longer aged, and she also discovered that she had developed a host of other problems: bad luck, random flashes of pain, occasional coughing up of spiders. It was a curse of curses, and after a few years of suffering, she realized she could use her own magic to temporarily pass her various ailments onto other people. And while she is no longer quite as reckless as she was in her youth, she still takes great glee in inflicting her curses on other people. She has recently been targeting a particular man that she describes as the single most annoying person I have ever met in my exceptionally long life. What is awesome about that is that most likely that person that she thinks is the most annoying person she has ever met in her exceptionally long life is the planeswalker seen in those various commander curses. So her whole deal is that she puts curses on herself and then she puts them on other people because she was cursed with curses. I love this card. If I did not already have a Nicol Bolas based commander deck, This
She would be your commander.
This would be my Grixis deck of choice because
I want somebody to use her. She's so cool.
Crazy. In fact, at some point in the next year, I might make the time to do that, to make a curse-based deck, because it'd be very different from Bolas's deck anyways.
I would love to see that from you.
I would also like to point out that she is currently putting a pin into a doll that looks exactly like the unluckiest Planeswalker.
But yeah, it's a commander set that went straight to boosters, and you can't get any decks around them. It's so weird.
That's very unfortunate. Yeah, Joe, if you look up Curse of... there's a variety of them. Curse of Verbosity, Curse of Vitality. I'm going to put some of these up. Stuff like that. You'll see Curse of Opulence. All of those are different cards that are specifically about the unluckiest. It's fantastic. And he always looks so completely off-put by everything that happens to him.
Oh, it is the same guy.
Yeah. I love it. I love that they did that to him. Because, I mean, obviously, it's insane.
And yeah, that is Lynn's doll.
Yeah. So, I was really looking forward to her commander deck, which makes sense because that was the only one that didn't actually exist out of the three. So, fantastic.
Because that's my life.
They couldn't even finish the zombie deck. So, I mean, why would I have to expect them to... You know what?
Ricky, not the episode.
Not the episode. Okay, we'll see you guys later. This has been Legendary Lore on all the legendary creatures.